Hi everyone, welcome to Squirrel Brain Stories. Just a little reminder right here at the beginning, we're going to be talking about heavy topics. Please make sure to take care of yourself, reach out to a friend if this triggers something in you. Make sure you drink your water, take your meds, and just maybe if you're not in a good place, today is not the day for this, come back to us later.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Squirrel Brain Stories. I'm Angela, and I'm here with my co-host, Adria. And we are going to be picking back up where we left off. In the previous couple podcasts, we talked about my early life and the early days of arriving at the cult. So we're going to pick it up from there.
Yeah. I think before we went in a different direction last time, we were getting onto what a typical day looked like for you.
So we woke up early. Like I was saying last time, the first day after the first night after sleeping there, my first waking up day there, everyone was up early and they woke me up and I was like, what's going on? We're up early. It was like 6 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
So I was like, what's going on? I know I'm not going to school,
Yeah.
So I started getting ready and they told me there was Bible study. And I was like, wow, this is early for Bible study.
Yeah. When you're getting up, what's your room situation like? I'm going to assume you didn't have your own room.
No, in the room I was staying, there were two girls, a mom and a daughter, that slept in the closet. It was like a walk-in closet. They slept on the floor.
Okay.
And then there was a bunk bed. I don't remember who. I think one of the bunk beds, my pseudo mom slept in with her daughter. And then I can't remember who was up on the top bunk bed. But I was on the floor with probably 2 or 3 other girls.
So crap, how many is that? 6, 7?
6, 7, yeah.
That's a lot. And was that the standard?
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. It was nothing compared to the brothers' room.
Really?
Yeah. In the brothers' room, one of them was smaller than our room. It probably had, 10 guys in there, roughly 8 to 10.
And what were like the demographics of the cult? Were there more women than men or more men?
More men.
Okay.
For sure.
So that makes sense.
And then the other brothers' room, there were probably 20, 30 guys.
Wow.
Yeah, I never really went down there because we weren't allowed down there. So I didn't see what it looked like. But at some point, later down the road, us girls got that room because they ended up getting the third house. So they divided up who was, sleeping where. So we got that room and it was a basement. So it was pretty big and there's just, beds along all the walls. Yeah, there's probably 6 beds or so. 6, 8. Beds on all sides of the walls.
Okay.
And then on the other side of the room was like a storage pantry. We had probably about 4 freezers and 1 or 2 fridges. And that's where they would bring all of the donations when donations would be picked up.
And what kind of donations did you guys get?
So we would get donations from like Fuddruckers. We'd get their bread, their yummy rolls. Oh, the sesame seeds on top.
Oh my gosh.
We would get stuff from Kino's. That's when Kino's still existed. I think Kino's was bought out by Albertsons or something like that.
I was going to say, I don't even know what that is.
Yeah, no, it was pretty big in the Portland area back in the 90s, 2000s. And then we would get stuff sometimes from Trader Joe's. We would get stuff from Zupan's. We would get stuff from Pasta Works Northwest. Fresh pasta, which was really yummy.
That is really
soft pasta. I know. You brown it with a little bit of butter, and then you cook it up. Oh, it's so good. And we'd get donations from Safeway. They had I don't know if I'm guessing they were contracts because they had done their nonprofit paperwork.
Yeah.
So that's how I think they were able to do donations because they were a nonprofit. So so as the day, let me get back to the day because that way I can kind of break it out. So yeah, we'd go to Bible studies. First Bible study would be 6:30 in the morning. And we'd be there until it was done. And then we'd have a break and we'd make our breakfast, which would typically consist of a muffin.
Wait, hold on. There's 2 refrigerators, 4 freezers, a shit ton of donations coming in, and you're getting a muffin?
Because that's most of the donations that we got was either produce or baked goods. So we would get the old creeper vans, the big vans.
Yeah.
We would get 2 vans full of nothing but pastries, donuts and cupcakes and muffins, sheet cakes. I think that's why I despise sheet cakes. I can't stand that crunchy frosting. So that's kind of, that we didn't really get a whole lot of meat. We got fruit and vegetables mainly, and then the bakery stuff.
So how are you guys getting protein?
Well, whoever had a cooking day, we would go around to the brothers and back then you can get the 10-pound bag of the gross chicken pieces from Winco for $5.
Yeah.
So we would collect donations from the brothers that work hey, we want to make this for dinner, but we need some meat. And so we would collect, maybe $20 to help with what was needed for dinner. Otherwise, we just kind of, every once in a while, they would pull together money to buy a big bag of beans and rice from the big restaurant store.
Yeah.
And so we always had access to beans and rice. So if we couldn't figure anything else meat wise, we just kind of threw together some beans and rice and whatever veggie we can, throw together.
But you guys didn't have eggs to make for breakfast ever?
People would buy eggs, but we didn't have there wasn't eggs in the refrigerator.
I'm just trying to think about looking at my own oldest son, what the impact would be on him if he ate nothing but muffins and donuts for breakfast, and how sluggish his mind would be, how sluggish he would be, how just cranky and how shitty his body would feel.
Well, and that's why I kind of feel to an extent there was some sort of food control going on, because what we needed wouldn't be provided for us, but what we didn't need was in abundance. And I feel like it turned into kind of a controlling situation where you had only this horrible food for you, this junk food. You gained 50 pounds and now you're made ashamed of yourself because you're when I got there, I probably gained 50 pounds.
How long did that take? Just
a few
probably
months.
Yeah.
Because, if you're I never
You're
really,
eating nothing but garbage.
Yeah. And coming from a home where, you never really knew what was going to be available to eat. And then this abundance of all the stuff that you really didn't have growing up. Well, that's the only thing that you want to eat. I remember eating frosting because there was those oyster, those plastic containers. There's containers and containers. We had a pantry in the kitchen where Bible studies was done. And the pantry was just it was a walk-in pantry, and there would just be stacks and stacks of these containers of muffins and cupcakes. So I would be like eating frosting off of the cupcake and throw the rest of it away.
Yeah,
there's
so much.
Yeah. So I gained a lot of weight.
And that was kind of the standard for them, was to pump the newer members full of trash and then put them down for their appearance.
I mean, it seems like that's definitely what I felt, growing up there. You don't have access to anything really that's like extremely healthy. I mean, maybe one meal a day, you're getting a protein and some vegetables, maybe some fruit.
And I also know that food is a really good way to control people. And it truly does seem like, because as we move on, I know they made you guys do a lot of physical labor just around the house and outside, kind of
Washing walls.
Well, yeah, I feel like in combination with the early rise times, you guys have Bible study all day, every day. And when you're not in Bible study, you're working for the cult. It's just a way to keep you compliant, to keep you too tired, too starved, too malnourished, to really think for yourself and look around and go, this is horrible. Everything going on around me is terrifying.
But as a kid, it didn't look like that, because I was like, oh, I'm being spoiled.
Exactly.
I have like the cake I could want forever.
And then you have this, you called her your pseudo mom, kind of like your den mom, who is present, who is there with you, much different than your own mom. And she's doing that during this time when you are just floundering. You've been thrown into this brand new environment, and it's scary, and you can't put a toe out of line, but you don't even know what the line is. And here she is, and she's this adult, and she's saying, look, I'm here. I'm taking care of you. Everything's fine. Everything you see around here is totally fine. It's normal. It's supposed to be this way. And why wouldn't you trust her? You have no one else.
This is what family looks like.
Exactly.
And when you don't have that family presence, early on growing up as a kid, it felt like there was people that actually cared about you.
Yeah. Not just about you, but about your soul.
Mm-hmm.
They want to make sure, you don't go to hell. That's not what we want. We want what's best for you in life and in your afterlife. God,
yes. So yes, I agree. So after the morning Bible studies, we would go and, have breakfast, do whatever chores, take showers, whatever. And then the Bible study would pick up back again around 10. And it would go to about 1:00 or maybe 12. And then we would have lunchtime. And then after the first Bible study, if you had a task for the day, like the cooking, then you were released from any more, of the personal Bible studies during that day, because you had a task to do. You had it took a while. It took a few hours cooking that much food for that many people.
Yeah.
And then if you had to go to the store and get whatever things you needed based on whatever donations you were able to collect, we would do a lot of ground beef too, because you can buy those big
ass tubes,
and they're like $5. So you didn't really need a whole lot to, you have to find creative ways to make it expand. There was a lot of soups.
Yeah, I believe that.
And I kind of became, master of soups. I still make soups all the time.
You do.
But they're good.
They are. They are. But you had said something about going and asking the men for money because they worked. The women in the house didn't get to leave, and
there was only one woman that worked in the house, and that was the leader's wife. She was a nurse.
Okay.
So she was allowed to work. There was one other lady that worked for a small amount of time at a coffee shop. And I think it was seen as like rebellion. And shortly after, she was gone.
Like she left, or
She ended up leaving, or I don't know the details. I'm sure there was drama, but I was not aware of what actually happened. I just know that shortly after, a few months went by and then she was gone. Yeah, and then I remember hearing, her, I don't know, so I don't remember who, but I remember rumors that she went back into drugs and prostitution or something like that, because apparently that's where she came from. But I don't know if this was just a ploy to make her look like a bad person because she was rebelling against the cult.
I would believe that. I would believe that it's something they made up. Like, oh, sin got her. She's back in sin. Just forget she was ever here.
Yeah.
But I'm curious. I know you've gotten to reconnect with some people that also got out. Has anyone ever reconnected with her?
Not that I am aware of.
Okay.
It would be interesting. I've thought about it at times just to see, what her story is. I'm kind of curious,
Do you remember just her first name?
I remember her name.
If she's listening, we're looking for you.
I know you're somewhere in California.
Oh, good. California's nice. What? It is.
You only say that because you're from there.
Yes, that is why.
I lasted 6 weeks there.
I lasted far too many years. But, okay, so getting money from the men, the women don't work. Who's driving you guys to the store to pick stuff up? Do you guys, like your den mother, does she drive you guys?
I didn't have a license yet. I did not get my license until after I was married.
Okay. So was it like...
It was like after, I think I just became pregnant. And so I don't know if someone was like, she's going to be needing to go to appointments now, so we got to get her a license, or someone's going to have to drive her. Yeah. I don't know, But it wasn't really like something that anyone was pushing me. Like, there was really no excitement for me to get my license.
More like this is a necessary evil that we have to let you do?
Kind of, yeah.
Okay, so the men, I take it, were driving the girls to the store.
The men, and there were a couple of the elder ladies that would give us a ride if we needed a ride.
Okay.
But usually we would cook in pairs too. So whoever was cooking, might have been one of the other ladies, and they had a license. And so we would go to the store.
Okay.
And then if your task wasn't cooking, maybe it was being on the phones is what they called it. And that basically meant that you were sitting at this table in the kitchen, the main kitchen where the Bible studies were held. And you were just sitting by the phones and the walkie-talkies all day. And you'd answer the phone, because a lot of the places that had donations, they would call and they say, hey, we have 5 pallets of white bread. And so I'd call and the men that didn't work or that were off. They, people were assigned. There were some men that didn't work. The American men didn't work.
Shocking.
Yeah.
Continue.
So they usually were the drivers. There were a couple other men, that weren't American that were drivers too. But when we had a donation call in, and we'd call them on the walkie-talkie, hey, we need you to go over to so-and-so, and that you need to, be in the big van because they have a van load of bread.
And this was like an all-day, everyday job for someone in the house?
Yeah. Sometimes we'd have 2 drivers because they get that many donations.
I can't wrap my head around that. When I worked places, granted, they were much smaller scale than places you're talking about. It was people came in, handed us their tax-exempt ID forms and said, yes, we are an actual charitable organization. Do you have anything we can just come stop by and pick up on a set day? We never called and said, hey, do you want this?
Yeah, no, we
I
would
don't
take-
know why that just strikes me as incredible that you guys had so much reach that all day, every day, these places are calling to be like, hey, we have all this extra, come get it.
Well, and sometimes we wouldn't even be able to take it all because it'd be like too much. So we'd go drop it off at Portland Rescue Mission, another mission in Portland for like homeless that's in downtown Portland. So.
And was that done in the cult's name or just done quietly?
No, by the cult.
To me, it looks like optics. Like, here, we have so much abundance. We want to share it with you. Don't forget this name if you want somewhere else to go.
Well, and we would go and preach there sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then when we would go do our missionary, our preaching, we would go out like every Friday night, and they would fill up the vans of us, and we would go down and preach and hand out pamphlets, like right there on Burnside, where all the homeless people and the druggy people hang out. That was wild.
Yeah, for very young teenagers.
Yeah, to be right in the middle of that and seeing all these people barely walking and like.
Well, it's a reminder to you. It's a reminder to you of what happens if you step outside of the law being laid down by the leader. This is what happens to you when you don't follow God's word as I'm presenting it to you.
Yeah.
I mean, that's how my little subconscious teenager brain would take it.
No, that does make a lot of sense. I'm sure that was.
Yeah, it's just
a thought behind a motivator.
And even if it wasn't a thought, it definitely had an effect, I'm sure.
Yeah, because it was scary seeing all those people and them walking walking around you. And
now it makes more sense that they would say, oh, that girl that left, this is what she went back to. Those people that we go and see that we feel so bad for and we give to them because we are so loved by God. We are chosen by him. We have all this abundance we're going to share. But yeah, see, she went back there.
Yeah. So yeah, it was a very structured day. And I'm sure that's, in a way what I needed in my life, coming from a completely unstructured, like I didn't know structure. I had never seen structure before, so I don't know if I'm sure that's what I needed as a kid, but this was like a complete extreme of structure. Controlling every aspect.
Control is not structure, and structure is not control.
Fair.
Yeah, my oldest has structure, but I don't itemize every single minute of his day and tell him exactly what to do and when,
Yeah.
It just.
Or what he can wear. Well, I'm sure there's some of that.
Okay.
But.
When it's 20 degrees outside in the morning, I tell him he can't wear shorts, but that's about the extent and the seriousness of it. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it was frowned on. The girls did not wear pants.
Okay.
We were not allowed to wear pants.
Yeah.
And I remember wearing pants a couple of times because I got a couple pair through donations. I was like, oh, those are cute. And man, yeah. I was already married to the ex-husband at that point, or to the prearranged husband. And man, boy, did I get hell for wearing pants.
So this is years in.
Mm-hmm.
Did you have any of your own clothes? Like when you got stuff from donations, was it yours, or was it just kind of, this is floating around and it's in the laundry, and if you get your hands on it, great. If you don't, somebody else has it.
No, if you pulled it out of donation, it was yours.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I don't know why. I just wanted to know. Yeah.
What a mess.
It's okay.
So yeah, it was It was really crazy. So after the lunchtime, we would come back to personal Bible studies for a while, for a couple hours, probably till around 3 or so. And then we would get braked for dinner time. We'd be released, and then the next Bible study wouldn't be until 7:30. And then pretty much after that, by the time it was done, it was 9:30. So people were like doing their nighttime chores. There's a lot of chores.
I can see that. So you're young and there's a lot of other kids in there. What kind of schooling is happening throughout the day?
So whoever was homeschooled was kids that had their parents there. If you didn't have your parents there, you weren't homeschooled. No one homeschooled you. I homeschooled myself for a little while.
But why didn't the moms that were homeschooling just do all the kids?
I don't know. Maybe they felt like it wasn't their responsibility, or it wasn't structured in a way that could be done. I don't know.
It'd probably take too many of you away from chores, honestly.
Yeah. And the one thing that I noticed often, and I thought it was interesting, was the families that had their families that were there with their kids. A lot of them, their kids were never out of their sight. And I thought that was weird, because like me and some of the older kids, we had to be escorted between the houses. We couldn't walk by ourselves. But I don't know. I thought it was interesting.
That's weird to me for several reasons.
Well,
typically in cults, they separate parent and child.
Yeah, I know one of them, there was an incident that happened with her daughter and some of the guys, or a guy. And so I think that's why she was very protective of them, of her daughters.
Okay. Were the whole family units that were there, did they usually work both of them, or was it still just the man that
Just
would
the
work?
husband.
Just the husband?
Yeah. And like I was saying, how the houses were, each family had their own room. So if you had, 1 kid or 10 kids, you were still in the same room. That was your family room, your bedroom.
I mean, not as bad as it could be, I suppose.
Yeah. Probably kept kids a little safer.
Yeah. But, so nighttime chores, no homeschooling for you.
No, it was just the Bible all day long.
Did you have any time that was just Angela's?
No.
No. There was never a time where you got to just sit and do nothing for even 5 minutes, not including time spent in the bathroom.
Not really. I was always busy. Like you were doing chores, cooking, doing the phones, reading your Bible, or helping with someone's kids. Yeah, there was really no downtime. I mean, after I had my first son, I had a little bit of that because, I had an excuse to be in my room a little bit more if I had a baby sleeping.
Like I'm nursing, I gotta take care of the little baby.
So I gotta have a little nap here and there. Sometimes I would put on my radio.
To the non-approved station.
Yes. And it felt so...
Rebel.
Yeah. I didn't do it very often because,
Fear.
I didn't want to get caught. But that was my only connection with the outside world, was my little radio every once in a while. There is no TVs. We didn't go anywhere except to when we went out as a big group to go preach.
Did you guys get any newspapers delivered at all?
No.
Huh. The leader probably did.
I don't know. I know he had this watch, and he would get notices on his watch of like the stock. Yeah. Because he was like doing stock stuff.
Like insider trading kind of stuff, or just actually trading stocks?
I'm not exactly sure. I think he had someone that traded stocks for him.
Mm.
So that was interesting because I had never heard of any of that. So I'm like, what is that stock stuff?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I started making a list of all of the names that I remember, and so far I'm like at 105 people.
Now, are those just members, or is that leadership?
Both.
Okay.
Yeah, people that live there. Still gotta work on the list because I'm curious of what the actual number is, but there was a lot of people that came and went, and we brought a lot of people off the street, that would come home with us when we went preaching. There was a lot of shady people that would come.
I was gonna say that's unsafe.
Yeah. Pretty unsafe.
So that's a typical day in the cult.
Mm-hmm.
And you talked about getting married, and your first husband is in the cult at the same time you arrive, right?
Mm-hmm.
He's already there. What is that like? What is dating in a cult like? Is there dating? How does that go? How does courtship, I guess?
Well, you do go like out to talk. We never went to like a restaurant, but we would go. There would be another couple that would chaperone us and like take us to the river to talk.
And how long did that go on for? Was it like a couple of months?
It was a few months.
But not like years long. How old were you when you ended up getting married?
I was 16.
16? Mm-hmm. And you had gotten there around 12, 13?
Yeah, I believe so.
Okay, but it wasn't like a years long thing where you were getting to know this guy?
No, I didn't really know him at all. I mean, like when I look back to see, like how much I knew of Buck before we got married, it's like I really didn't know anything about this person except for they were from Mexico.
Oh.
Are you getting chilly?
I am. I can feel myself starting to chatter.
I'm not there yet.
Well, you're wearing long sleeves. You look cozy.
There was this one guy there, though, and I guess he wanted to, like, kidnap me or something.
What?
Yeah, I think he was, like, a pedophile or something, and he had told leadership that he was going to run away with me. I didn't hear much about the details, but that's all I was told, that he was going to kidnap me and run away with me.
Why would they tell you that?
I don't know.
What did they do about it? Did they do anything about it?
He ended up leaving.
Without you, obviously.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I don't know if, like, they told him to leave or if he left on his own accord.
Did they, like, protect you, try and keep you away from him?
No, he was one of the guys that rubbed his hand across my pubic area one day in the kitchen in front of everyone.
Rewind. Start over. What the fuck?
Yeah.
Walk me through that. Because you can't just say, oh, yeah, he was one of the guys who used to fill me up in the kitchen. No big deal. That's a big deal. I need you to, like, elaborate, please.
Well, there was a bunch of us in the kitchen. It probably was like after Bible study or something. And I was walking over to the sink, and he walks in front of me and like rubs his hand against my private area.
Did you feel like you were able to say anything?
I was kind of shocked. I didn't know what to do, but other people saw it too, and no one reacted. So I was like, okay, I guess it's not that big of a deal.
And we talked about this in the first episode with your neighbor trying to pay you to like lift up your skirt on the toilet, and then essentially breaking into your house, manipulating his way into your house to try and assault you. And you kind of going, my mom never showed up. She never told me that none of this was wrong. It felt icky, but you know.
I mean, if she didn't make a big deal of it, police never came, so.
Exactly.
Maybe I was just overreacting.
And do you think maybe that's why you had no reaction when that happened? How many times did that happen?
Well, he did that once, and there was another guy that brushed up against my breast one time in front of, Bible study. We were at personal Bible study. And he walked up and like pushed himself, and like my boobs, moved, and yeah. And he was older. He was like in his 60s.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then there was one guy that I would put my feet up on an empty chair at the Bible study, and he would rub on my leg.
How old was he?
He was in his 20s.
Oh, so not
creepy old.
Yeah, disgustingly older than you.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, but I definitely think your mom's inaction and unwillingness to protect you played into you. Just kind of, it sounds like you froze a little bit. Just kind of, it happened and you're like, okay, check everybody else's reaction. Nobody else cares. Okay, I shouldn't care.
Yeah, it's not a big deal.
It is. Right. And I'm sorry. That was gross.
Yeah. Creepers, man.
I hope they're rotting in hell.
I hope every person that did bad there is. But I doubt that's the case.
It never is.
But that's part of why it's important to expose because there's really no reason why we should be carrying shame of what people did to us.
Especially when you were there without choice and powerless. And yeah, it's fucked up that they came in, got to cause all this harm, and most of them have never paid for their crimes.
No, there's only been 2 that I'm aware of that have actually been indicted.
And it wasn't even for sexual assault or anything like that, right?
No, 2 of them were, but not for the full extent of I know one of them, not the full extent had been revealed during the investigation because there was a lot of fear.
Yeah.
He would use his kids as a manipulating tool. Like, you can't say anything because the kids will be taken away. And she cared a lot about the kids. She helped raise them. At this point, he had like 5 kids.
And that was your den mom?
No, it was another one of the young girls.
Mm.
And then, our one friend, whose story we'll be sharing, he'll be sharing his story down the line.
He's a cinnamon roll. I love him.
Yeah, his story is going to be crazy.
Yeah.
And so that's one of my goals. I know. So that's one of my goals with this podcast, is that the other children that I grew up with, that my coming forward and that strength that I'm carrying to be able to do this, that will help them find their strength to speak their story too.
Yeah.
Because they deserve to not to have to carry that around forever.
And I know that you did give him a lot of strength, and some of the things that he shared with us are
horrifying.
Abso-fucking-lutely horrifying.
And the way that everyone ignored everything that was plainly in sight, and police were not an option. The brothers were given the opportunity to repent with Christ, and they would be forgiven. And, law officials were never involved.
I do want to ask, when incidents would come to light, the men would repent, say your Hail Marys, do whatever, and you're all forgiven, we're all good. What happened to the girls? How were they handled, I guess?
Well, I know in our friend's case, he, if something bad happened to you, it was your fault. Because
that's what I assumed.
Because you opened that door somehow, or you did something that
What were you wearing?
Right?
Why weren't you wearing pants? We don't allow pants, but you've been wearing
pants. Because pants, you can see more of the shape. So they wanted us to hide our bodies.
Or easy access.
Yeah, that too.
I'm disappointed, but not in any way, shape, or form surprised that it was just, yeah, it's your fault. You shouldn't have been there. If you had been doing chores like you were supposed to, if you had been paying attention to your Bible study, you wouldn't have been in that position.
Yeah, and talk about victim blaming,
Yeah. Because it doesn't work if you're actually harmed. If they acknowledge that something bad happened to you and that you were harmed and it wasn't your fault, then nothing else they're telling you works. I don't think it can.
Yeah, and I remember one of, there was this one story I was told, and the leader took this victim on a drive with multiple of, his abusers with them. And the leader was like, do you like what they're doing to you? If you don't, then you have to change, or it's going to continue. So it's victim blaming. It's making it your fault that this happened to you, and for whatever your defect is.
That feels like so much more than victim blaming. That feels like psychological torture.
Yeah.
I can't. Everything inside me just stopped when you said that. I'm so sorry. I did like a hard reset. I don't. God, that is so fucked.
I know. I was pretty shocked when I heard it too.
And that's not our friend, is it?
Well, but it's deeper than that. But we're gonna be able to pour more, because I've noticed with him, he does the same thing that I do, that you call me out on. It's like, wait, what'd you do? You just said that too lightly, like, just brush it up,
it's still sitting in a box. It's still sitting in a box with no emotions attached to it. It is just a thing. This is a ball. It's a ball. There's no emotions around a ball. It's just a ball. You throw a ball. That's what happens.
Yeah. And so I don't know. I'm sure there's something psychological to that, about the downplaying. I don't know if it's
self-preservation.
survival mechanism.
Yeah.
crazy.
No, that's fucking horrifying.
Now you see why I tore down my fence.
Yeah. Yeah. Sorry, I was unwilling to help you. That didn't sound like fun. It didn't sound like fun. Oh my goodness. Wow. That got real dark. Again. Whew. That was a lot. And I think I need a few minutes.
Okay.
I think
Take a little break.
we're going to wrap it up.
Okay.
And guys, please remember to take care of yourselves. Pretty please. Drink your water, take your meds, reach out to a friend, practice self-care, do some meditation, whatever you have to do. Just please take care of yourselves.
Thank you.
Oh, bye guys.